Hi everyone, my name is Tina. So today I will talk about the work that I've done for this Project Pensive at Vector Institute during my internship time period. So for the social media platforms such as these Reddit, Facebook, and Twitter, they have grown immensely since their creation. With its pros and cons, the content shown to users provided by these recommender engines, it is often myopic, and it contributes to the increase in misinformation, polarization, depression, and disentanglement. So for Project Pensive and my part of the work, our effort is surrounded by building a tool that leverage machine learning techniques to apply deep content analysis to boost or suppress these recommendations, such that the users can apply these various filters to their recommendation list and therefore enhance their own experience. So today I'm going to talk about the two filters that we developed for such recommender systems, which are a extremity filter and a diversity filter. So first, to motivate the need of a recommendation diversification is that for users in a conventional recommender systems, they usually encounter this filter bubble problems where users, they would get continuously recommended by the same products just based on the information and opinions that they've given to the system before, and such that they will just get trapped in this bubble, and instead of getting a variety of different recommendations. So that is one of the problem, and we are going to address it by diversifying the recommendation results. And also the need of an extremity filter is that it is motivated by the different political discussions that happen on the Reddit community. And this is the data set that we use as well. So our filter, it is going to leverage a political spectrum directional vector that's going to look like this in a more intuitive way. And it is going to generate these extremity score for each recommendable item, which is a specific Reddit thread that can contain up to hundreds of thousands of comments within a thread. So this is going to allow each individual to set their own tolerance level, such that the users can just filter out other very extreme users when they are trying to view recommended items on this Reddit social media platform. And that is the motivation of these two filterings for recommender systems. And now I'm going to proceed to the design of the systems. So first, we start from a language model-driven recommender systems. We are using the PushShift Reddit datasets that contains over 3 billion Reddit posts all the way from 2015 to 2019, the end of the year. And the model that we used is leveraging the current trendy pre-trained language model that is called BERT encoder. And also we are utilizing these Hugging Face libraries, as well as these TensorFlow Keras for constructing the model. So the overall model architecture is outlined over here. So given a Reddit input, which is in the form of a natural language, the model is going to try to predict and understand which user might have said this. So in this way, this model is going to understand for each user's their language habits or their characteristics that identify their the items that they might like, and it is going to embed it into this embedding space that has a 768 dimension. And also, so the model was trained on Google Colab by leveraging their TPU resources, so which is going to be much faster than using the PyTorch tool. And also in order to make use of this tool that we built, and for the further downstream task of making recommendation diversification and as well as extremity filtering, we generate this political spectrum directional vectors in the embedding space. So the embedding space is particularly this space that we have that helps us to understand the core characteristics of an input comment or the core characteristics of a user. So An overall idea is that for each user, that are the circles over here, or either for each Reddit comments, these are the diamonds over here, we are going to construct a linear separation line, hyperplane over here, that separates out the users who are more on the conservative side and the users who are more on the liberal side. So these are ground truth information are granted by the dataset, such that the user have mentioned multiple times about like a conservative related topics or a liberal related topics, and vice versa. Since they share the same space, we can use the Reddit comments to see which conservative Reddit comments are on this side, and then this separational plane is going to put the Reddit comments that have the liberal, more related topics on the other side. So the vector that we got is going to be perpendicular to this separational vector, and this is going to point towards like two polarity ends of a political like spectrum, or we call this a partisan vector. And from there on, we can make projections of these different dots of users, as well as these different diamonds onto this single line, such that we can get a histogram of distributions for the users, like the recommendable items to the users. And from there, we can use these information to make recommendations, diversifications, and extreme content filtering. So for example, give a list of recommendation for a user. It can be distributed like evenly and spread out like very largely on this directional vector, such that it has a huge like a standard deviation value. And on the other hand, a recommendable item, which is a Reddit thread, might contain like thousands of Reddit comments that are very skewed, and standard deviation is like relatively small, such that all the contents within this Reddit threads, they don't have like much diverse topics that are the users have discussed about. So from these type of histograms, we can visualize like different types of recommendable Reddit threads, and such that the user can select which type, like the magnitude of diversification each recommendation list should be. And we are giving the user the control to select the diversification magnitude. And as similarly, for extremity filtering, the user can identify a threshold such that like the comments that lie beyond this value is going to be considered as like extreme comments. So these red areas are a threshold of 3. So these comments will be filtered out because the users would chose this threshold, and we are not going to visualize it to the user. So the overall application is demonstrated by this workflow. So originally we have our recommender engine. It is going to recommend and rank Reddit comments or Reddit threads to users. And optionally, the user can choose the diversification magnitude or the extremity filtering magnitude, like the extreme content they can tolerate, and also how much they want the recommended items to be diversified. So, and that is the overall workflow, and I'm going to start my demo for this system. You can come back. So right now it is loading the model, and it's going to take some time. Yeah, so just an illustration of the data set that we make use of. We particularly look at attributes such as subreddits. And for here, we only extracted subreddits that are related with like political views. And also we have user information. The body is the text of their particular comments. And also we look at the dates of the comments was being made. So to start, this language model driven recommender takes in natural languages. So a co-start user means that the user is new to the system, and he can just start typing things like, I support Trump. And then this model is going to provide this user a recommendation feed based on this user's new inputs. And on the other hand, we have existing users as well. We can just select an existing user, and the system is going to create a list of recommendations as well for this user. And this is the basic functionality for this recommender system. So for here, we can see that this user might have sent a lot of comments that are labeled with this subreddit. So this the first 3 recommended items by this system is going to be stuck within this topic. And yeah, so on to the discussion of the political spectrum, this directional vector generations. So we have like labeled by ourselves for different political view, these different polarities. We have the subreddits that belongs to this polarity, such that these the comments that are labeled with these subreddits are going to be exact samples for these different polarities. And for our experiments, I did 6 different political spectrums to analyze and experiment with. So these are the ones like conservative versus liberal, and very distinct communities include like Donald versus Hillary. That was the election happened several years ago. And from there, we can extract our or generate a political spectrum directional vector such that a user I support Trump again, and by the political spectrum vectors is going to help us to grant an estimation score regarding how extreme this new input is on a specific political spectrum. So for here, we can see that the most largest score is that this is probably towards a conservative side. This is more leaning toward Donald. And for here, we can see that this political spectrum is not particularly performing well, and it is thinking that this is not anti-Hillary. But there's noise that exists in this data set as well. I'm just showcasing 3 of the political spectrums to showcase the results. And we can also do the same for an existing user as well. But for the concerning of the time, I'm not going to do that. And for the embedding space, after we generate this directional vector that points toward, let's say, conservative versus liberal, on the other hand, we can project the user embeddings from like 768 dimensional space onto 3-dimensional space, and we can visualize them such that this directional vector is embedded in this visualization, such that the positive arrow is pointing toward the red dots, and the negative arrows is pointing toward the blue dots. And this is separating the users that are more leaning toward conservatives and the users that are more leaning toward the liberal side. So putting it all together, I have a user simulation demo, which I'm going to enter an existing user because he has already done a lot of Reddit comments on this platform. Let's say we can select how many feeds that this user wants to see, the subreddit that this user is interested in, and I can apply these different 2 filters, the diversification filter, the extremity filter, and over here, the user can select 2 different like political spectrums to analyze the recommendation results, and we can therefore like diversify it or try to apply extremity filter on the recommendation results. So this first bar is the maximum percentage of extreme content that this user can tolerate. So 100% is that this user can tolerate anything. And for here, this diversification like magnitude, I made it into a sliding bar such that this is the magnitude that the user wants the topic to be like diversified upon these 2 like political spectrums that he or she selected. And also on this side, we can select, let's say, an extremity tolerance magnitude. So it is ranging from 0 to 1, so that the user identifies so any comments that have values greater than 0.5 on this political spectrum is considered as an extreme content. So we can therefore use these values to filter out Reddit threads. So threads that have more than 80% of the content are extreme, that exceeds this 0.5 is going to be filtered out. And then for the rest of the recommendable items, for any comments that have the extremity value greater than 0.5 is going to be filtered out. And from there, we can generate our recommendation results. And it's going to take some time for generating the results, but from this point of view is that we originally, the user have an original recommendations. And because we select a diversification filter, it is going to re-rank all these results. And also because we select the extremity filter, it is going to filter out the comments that are considered to be extreme. So because this is a lot of text comments, I'm just going to overall describe this. All the Reddit threads that are recommended are listed over here, the top 10 of them, and I'm showing the top level comments that started this thread. So the diversity score of each thread is listed over here. That is close to the diversification magnitude that the user has specified. And we can see that these views are itself like more diversified. Some are Trump supporters, some do not like Trump, and some are just, these are different like debatings and different topics going on over here by a user like trying to diversify the recommendation list. And also these are the Reddit comments or threads that were filtered out by the extremity filter. And for here, some of them are toxic, some of them are just like spamming, they just have repetitive text in it, and some don't have appropriate languages. So these are the things we don't want the users to see. They are very extreme. But a note is that slightly different from previous work that was done by Project Pensive in the summer term is that extremity does not mean toxicity. So extreme means that this user is very extreme, but the user can be polite as well. And so that is the overall demo for this model that we built. And so now on to the next steps. So for this, we have built the model, and it is taking in users' natural language input and trying to predict the number of users. But the next step is inspired by the work that is done by Google. They have for conversational recommender systems, and also by inspired by Word2Vec. We should try to make this model more scalable, such that like hundreds of thousands of users can be used for training the model, and they have billions of Reddit data sets that we can feed in, and this is going to be more scalable. And for the political spectrum aspect, we can try to aggregate different like subreddit items in this space instead of just treating all the subreddits equally as the category of the political polarity. And this is going to inspire a future work that is to be done by us continuously, that is targeted diversification. This is new for the area of conversational recommender systems. And because we have constructed these directional vectors, we can try to move the user representations in the space such that they can get a more diversified recommendations. And additional future work include that we use community embeddings that is inspired by Professor Anderson's work at U of T. And also we can embed preferential languages for better performance. And also we can combine with the previous work done by Project Pensive to investigate the civility factor in the embeddings. So overall, I'm going to bring us back to the problem framing space. Yeah, so for Project Pensive, we are continuously building this tool, and now we have leveraged like natural languages to make recommendations to the users, and more work and research work can be done for in the field of conversational recommender systems, especially leveraging these BERT, these pre-trained language models, and such that it is going to benefit the user experiences and maximize their satisfaction during the recommendation process. So yeah, that's all for my part. I'm going to hand it over to Mozhgan.
Thank you, Tina. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And continuing Tina's work, the research questions after that would be how community embedding is used in the recommendation systems, and also how can we use the content in the community embedding. So for these purposes, actually there are like two recent works that one is from Professor Anderson group, which is the paper at the left that I just get this figure from them, and they are like actually using the embeddings for to see like how a comment is from a general perspective side and how it's from a specialist side. And the other recent work is learning how to generate the community embeddings by using the node embedding, and that's the algorithm that I'm going to start using and see how we can use these node embeddings to generate the community embeddings. And for these reasons, the dataset that I am going to work on is the Ready dataset. And this is like the data frame of this dataset, which is consisting of the communities and also the description of the comments that we have in the Reddit. And for generating the embeddings that we wanted to bring more context from the comments, the idea is like showing in this figure. That with the idea is including like generating the embeddings for each one of the comments that the specific user has already in the dataset. And by using like the sentence BERT model, we wanted to generate the embeddings for each one of the comments and then get the average over all of the posts or comments from each one of the specific users. And then by getting the average, it will provide like the content, the content which is based on the comments, and on the other side, we wanted to have the community embeddings for. So for that part, we generate the representation or the embeddings by using the BERT model for each one of the communities, and at the end, we just use the cosine similarity between the context that we generated and also the community representation to see each one of the comments is closer to which one of the communities that we have. So the next step in the project would be like looking into the diversity and see what is the diversity along social dimensions. And it means that what is the subreddit that differs along this dimension. And the other step is given a vector of the user's total interest as the input, we wanted to see how to return a list of the vectors that differ from that in a specific direction. And also giving control aligned with the recommendation, aligned with the social direction, and improving the community embedding by using the graph neural network as the other step. And also, as I mentioned, using the text embedding to predict the communities and see when we have a new comment from one of the users, which one of the communities it's belonging to. And it concludes our presentation. We would be happy to take any question if you have.